Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and welcome to this special YouTube video that we decided to do.
Yay!
Woo! Now, the whole point of this video is basically to celebrate the fact that 2 years ago, I made the announcement that Michael and I purchased Let's Make Art. And so we just kind of wanted to take a moment to commemorate that moment. And I thought it would be fun if we did an exercise together where it's basically called like a life up and down graph. Okay.
All right.
So I did this exercise when I was in college in my art education class. And it was kind of like an intro exercise where every single student in the classroom created this life graph where they talked about the highs and the lows that they've experienced in their life so far. It was a really moving exercise and one that I thoroughly enjoyed because it cut through all of it and went straight to the feels. You know what I mean? Like
hmm
you're kind of talking about your best moments and your worst moments. And I thought it would be interesting to do this when it comes to my experience with Let's Make Art, the whole thing. So, how this works is basically you get a scratch piece of paper and you're going to list your like top moments. Okay. You want to have at least 5 moments. So you think through back, you can do this for your life. You can do this with your experience of your career. You can do this for a certain period of time. It doesn't really matter. But whatever your parameters are, you're going to list your top and then you're going to list your lows, your lowest lows. Okay.
Okay.
And then you create a graph with those points. So this is the timeline here. I'm starting it in 2017/2018, and then it's going to now 2026. And then wherever those highs and lows happen chronologically, you plot them and then you create a continuous line. Okay.
It's fun being able to see every time you didn't get movie theater popcorn graphed out.
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
this is.
there.
And then I have it and then I don't.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so I did that exercise and I'm just going to kind of talk through all of these bullet points and what they were and what was happening and all of that kind of stuff. Okay.
Okay.
Also, I'm doing this in my journal and I will just paint over this because I want pictures in my journal. However, you can leave it. You can do it on a scratch piece of paper. You can do it and frame it. You can do whatever you want. I'm just letting you know I'm doing it in my journal and I know that I'll paint over it later. Okay. So, for the beginning of my journey here, this was in 2017/2018, and this was where the dreaming happened. So, this is where my original business partner contacted me. We talked through how we want the art world to feel. We talked through the challenges of art supplies and buying them in person and online. We talked through basically how we wanted the company to be. And that was really fun because that was like the dreaming time, right? Where we're just kind of like, the world is our oyster. We could do this. We could do this. We could do this. Okay. And so that is where we started here. And it was really fun. Um, and then this next one here is when we moved out to Hamilton.
The dreaming and the doing. That's
The
what we'll call
dreaming
this
and the
chart.
doing is essentially this range here. Um, and what was happening is basically Michael and my husband and I are from California. At that time, we had 2 very young kids. The dreaming part was really fun. I came out to visit Hamilton. I was going to fly out and was flying out every single week to do live paint alongs. But what that actually looked like was that looked like every 3 days I was on an airplane back and forth between Missouri and California. I mean, my youngest was a year old, and that was really, really hard on our family and our marriage. And so after only like 3 to 4 weeks of doing that, Michael and I looked at each other and we're just like, we're just going to move out to Missouri. There is really no revenue yet. There is no sign that this business would be successful. It was truly like hope and a prayer. Let's just move out. If we're doing it, let's do it kind of thing. Okay.
If you don't know, Hamilton is one of those small towns you think about when you think of small towns. It's tiny in the middle of
Population
Missouri.
1,800
Yeah,
people
it's
in the
tiny.
middle,
Yeah.
no large surrounding towns.
All right,
Okay.
keep going.
So, we have no money. We literally use all of our money and all of the money we do not have
On
to
credit
move out
cards.
here.
Yeah, we
We
maxed out
maxed out our credit
all
cards
credit cards.
to purchase the moving van to move out here. We move out here and the reality of the situation kind of smacks me in my face, which honestly, maybe I needed a little bit, but it was just, we didn't really have a lot of support. The place that we were going to live fell through, so we didn't have a home. I felt terrified, and there were many moments of what was I thinking moving my entire family out here? I was working probably 16-hour days. Michael also not getting paid because at the beginning of starting a business, you do not get paid. Michael was basically abandoned his career in the sciences in order because there were no science opportunities here in Hamilton, Missouri. He picked up a job doing video work. Um, we never saw each other. I never saw the kids. It was uh,
Real fun.
really hard. We only had a place to live due to the kindness of strangers who literally let our family live in their house. Um, Gosh, I'm getting like emotional thinking about it. Oh, and it was like in those moments where I was just like, what am I doing? But when you have this feeling and you have to like dig deep, I don't know. When I look back, I'm like, I can't believe we made it through that time. You know what I mean? You just kind of like put your head down and you just work. And that's what we did is we worked our butts off for a bit. And it was really, really hard and really lonely.
Can I
Uh,
pause you to tell you that I love that that's a low and that it goes lower than that? I'm very excited to hear what the next dot lower
we're
is.
only on the first low and I'm in tears.
I'm real excited to
You
know.
guys are in for a trip. um, okay. So, I mean, I'm not saying we met new people and people showed, like, strangers showed us kindness in ways that we couldn't even, like, fathom. So, I don't want to pretend that that wasn't real, but on the whole, that was the experience. This here was the decision to sell Let's Make Art. And I'm going to get emotional again. I think at this point I was so tired. And it was starting to grow really fast. And I was responsible for packaging everything and coming up with the projects and filming the projects and doing the photos and all of this kind of stuff. Um, I didn't handle any of the website or anything, thank goodness. That was my business partner. But it really was this like, okay, we started this and it's starting to work, but then like, whoa, I'm I, it was overwhelming. I mean, Michael and I would be as soon as the month started because we were doing kind of kits at that point and subscriptions. Every night we were, filling the paper packs ourselves and, you know,
Watching The Office.
watching The Office, and I would come home for dinner and then I would immediately leave to go start filling those mini paint bottles by hand that you guys were getting in your kits in your boxes. And so it grew, which was really great, but all of that workload, we were, I mean, essentially trying to figure out how do we like, is there a third party logistics that can take this on? All of this kind of stuff. The opportunity to sell my shares came up and I decided to take it. And the reason why there were a lot of things that went into me deciding to agree to sell my shares. The biggest thing, well, I don't want to say the biggest thing, but like part of it was just that I was literally missing my children's childhood. And I knew that I was gone all of the time. And so even though like this company was something that I loved and put everything into, I knew enough about business to know that whatever business I did, it was not worth the sacrifice of my family. And I refused to do that. I mean, all of the money in the world wouldn't be worth missing my kids and my husband and being a good partner and being a good mother. So I decided to sell. And that was probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. And I was really afraid that I made the wrong decision. And I remember specifically writing in my journal all of my fears about selling. And again, it was rough. It was just really, and like telling people I sold, like like my family was just devastated. And I was devastated and I just didn't really see another way. But with me selling came support. And that was helpful. So somebody else basically came and was the director of Let's Make Art. They had a bit more experience than I did. We were able to hire people. We brought on new employees and teachers. We kept on growing. And this time there were options of like, okay, we need to do this. And it was more people in and more hands to do all of the work. And we started to feel that kind of growth and success, which felt really, really good. I was still kind of struggling with not owning it anymore, but at least the fact that, I was able to come home during dinner time was like really great. That was exciting. And not saying that I only worked 9 to 5. That's not true. I still was putting my all into this business, but there were definitely more people who had way more experience who were able to be really supportive and helpful during that time. And that was a really fun and exciting time. Um, and so I really enjoyed that.
Also, selling meant that you got to be on payroll now, which meant that you finally made money,
Yes,
which
that's
was
also really
that
important.
was another rough part of the downward spiral right there. It was
Yes.
like work more, 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 more. Still, it's a
Yes.
startup.
So as becoming an employee, I now had a salary,
Which
which
was
was
awesome.
excellent. That was really helpful. At that point, we had bought a tiny little farmhouse on the outskirts of town.
We still live there, by the way.
We still lived there. Michael was remodeling it essentially while I was working. But things were looking up. It felt like, okay, we can breathe. We can actually survive out here. We're not going to be destitute. This is okay. So that was going on. And we're looking at this is happening around like 2019, 2020. And I will say that COVID really shot Let's Make Art up in terms of
People are
customers.
stuck at home with nothing to
People
do.
were stuck at home with nothing to do. And if you're watching this, I'm going to bet a lot of money that you saw a Facebook ad during 2019/2020. And that is why you are here today.
Hello, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for still being here. Um, but with growth and success, people are way more interested in what you're doing. And so we experience a lot of growth, a lot of success, and then different people, part of the organization that owned Let's Make Art, started to really pay attention to what we were doing. So this really, really cool company that we were building up here where we had a lot of control and say in how we showed up to our customer and what we went into and all that kind of stuff. We started to slowly lose that control. And like, I'm not trying to show blame or anything like that. Like, we needed help and support because we were growing at a rate that we just could not truly like manage. The systems that we were building were not sustainable. However, with someone coming to help you out, that usually means that they have a say in what you're doing. Okay. So it eventually got to a point where the company started making decisions that I really had not a lot of say in, but I was still representing this brand. So I was still the face, and you guys still interacted with me a lot. The assumption was that I still owned it because we actually never formally announced that I didn't. And I felt very responsible to you guys to make sure that the values in which we were preaching, we also practiced internally, but I actually didn't have any control over that. And it was really, really starting to weigh on me and become more and more difficult. And so the other aspect of being an employee is, yes, you get a salary, which is excellent. But as an artist, every single thing that you make is owned by that company. It's not owned by me. And so I felt very limited and kind of like, because it got to a point where it's just like, do you own my name? Do you own my image? Do you own all of my artworks? Do you own all of my education? Like, it started to mess with me a little bit, and I felt very confined in how I could show up or even the things that I could pursue. Part of me selling is I signed an employee agreement or contract that had a really aggressive non-compete, and so for a very, very long time. And so I just was starting to feel trapped. Simultaneously, there were things that were happening internally that I just did not feel comfortable that I could show up in front of you guys and be authentic, because I just didn't totally agree with some of the decisions that were being made. And again, I don't want to say that these decisions were inherently bad. It's just like, as an artist and as a creative, I have a very specific perspective and passion about very certain things. People who are more experienced in the business world are more familiar with profit and loss statements and all of that kind of stuff. So they were really prioritizing things that maybe that were valuable, but that I didn't find to be the most important. And there again, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It was just a misalignment of priorities. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So I made the decision to resign. This also was around the same time that my bonus dad unexpectedly passed away. So within a month, I willingly gave up my career. I lost someone that was really important to me. And it was, again, one of those things where I was like, what am I doing? And choosing to resign was probably the scariest thing because I was choosing it. I was taking control and saying, I'm not okay with this. I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know if it's going to be okay, but no, I'm not doing this anymore. And I didn't know how things would happen. At that time, I was responsible for the majority of the revenue of Let's Make Art. So me resigning was a really, really big deal, because not only was I sacrificing my job, it could happen that a lot of people would lose their job because of me choosing to walk away. And that was weighing on me too, and all this kind of stuff. It ended up being okay in the way that I was able to be a contractor and I stayed on as a contractor. So when I resigned, I was just like, hey, maybe me as employee is not it anymore, but are you open to me being a contractor and having that sort of arrangement? So that is what we pivoted to. So that's why you guys had no idea that that happened. And essentially, like, because immediately we pivoted into that relationship, and Let's Make Art monthly releases kept on going. Okay. So I became a contractor, and this is where this high point was. Because as a contractor, I had a bit more protection and autonomy over my work. There were very clear boundaries of what belonged to this and what belonged to me, all of that kind of stuff. I will also say that the leadership position at this time was very open to a contractor relationship. They did not guilt me or anything like that. Like, working with them was actually positive all around. I felt comfortable saying, hey, this is what I need in order if you want me to do XYZ. And they're like, great, we just want you to do Z. And I go, awesome. And we just like were able to move on and move forward. So that was this high right here. I started to feel like I had more autonomy as a creative. I was able to kind of like go into things that I was passionate about. I wasn't worried about like all of this kind of stuff, and things were good. Okay.
All right.
Where we're at right here is, at this time, around this time, we're kind of seeing the effects of the end of COVID. Essentially, our sales just kind of like dropped because people were able to go outside again. They weren't sequestered to their home. And so, all these people that were painting were like with their friends again and doing all this stuff they could do before. Basically, the sales weren't able to support Let's Make Art as a business as much as they were. So, because of that, Let's Make Art had to do a lot of layoffs. And that's this point right here. And some of the layoffs were really sudden and surprising. And basically, at this point here, there were very few people left in this organization. And um, I remember very distinctly at this point, Michael started doing our videos. I was still teaching, and Hadley was still working for Let's Make Art. And it was the morning when a lot of people were laid off, and we were totally like, what just happened? And we were really afraid. We didn't know if Let's Make Art would live. We didn't know if we would still have jobs, all of this kind of stuff. But we were in a meeting and we looked at each other and we said, we're not giving up on this. Like, not yet. Like, we are still going to show up for these people. We are still going to create. I'm still going to teach the best way that I can teach. And I'm still going to honor all the work that I've done before. And I'm not going to give up. And so we kind of like did this like emotional, like spiritual, we're doing this and we're going to keep doing this and we're going to keep showing up as hard and as authentically and as good as we can until they tell us it's over. So that's what we did. And we continued. And at this point, I had no idea. Like my contractor's contract was coming up. I had an end date. I was expecting to be told that Let's Make Art was going to just be closed down and thank you for your service, but it's time to move on. And that was really scary for me, but I was getting to a point where I was just like, you know what? I went through all this. I can, if I have to start all over again, I think I can. And I was like mentally preparing myself for the end of Let's Make Art. And then this is when the conversation came up and negotiations happened where I could purchase Let's Make Art back, which was not on my radar at all. Not even anything that I even could have thought was possible. But the organization that owned Let's Make Art was really excited at the prospect of me owning it. And they were really helpful during that transition. And I'm just forever grateful for that. And so this was just like truly like life shifting moment where when I left that meeting where we discussed that possibility, I just went, my life is about to change. Like I didn't even agree to buy it, but I was just like, my life is about to change.
She cussed. She cussed out loud. I remember it.
Yes.
And it was one of the bad ones.
And so that was really, really great. This right here is the months of
the dream and the plan,
the dream,
execution,
and it wasn't necessarily the execution. It was like, what is that called? Where like nothing can happen.
Oh, the lull.
Yeah, it was like the lull,
dead period.
like purgatory, essentially, where it's just like I couldn't tell you guys that I was going to buy it. There was no communication from Let's Make Art. All of the other artists were gone at this point. People were really upset.
At you specifically.
At me, at everybody. I will say that the Kind and Happy Facebook community page that you are a part of now for Let's Make Art Watercolor was not this kind and happy during this time. And that is why this low is so low, because it was a...
Don't cuss again.
All I'm going to say is the mental games that were playing within my head, I knew everybody was mad at me. I was afraid that I was being messed with because I'm like, why is this taking so long? But honestly, contracts just take a really long time. There was nothing nefarious happening. I'm like, let's go. Let's get this party rolling. But sometimes things just take longer. I still couldn't tell anyone. People were making a lot of assumptions of what was happening and were really, really upset. And were very open with their criticisms and very confident in the things that they were typing. And so the comment sections destroyed my soul a little bit. But I knew that something good was coming. And so I just wanted to be like, just hold on. And I will say that there were quite a few people who messaged me directly and just said, hey, don't read those comments in the Facebook group. Whatever you're doing, I'm here and I'm waiting for you to tell me what's going on. And I know it's going to be okay. And those were like a balm to my soul because I just thought, okay, I'm not going to be able to keep everybody, like a lot of trust has been broken with how this lack of communication went about. So it's just like, I know that some people are going to be done with this and that's okay. But the people who are meant to stay are still here. And so it was a lot of like telling myself, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. But that was a lot of mental and emotional work, like so much mental and emotional work. So that was here. Here is exactly 2 years ago today, where we got to announce that Michael and I were the buyers of Let's Make Art, and we were able to tell you directly the plan and what we're going to do and what we were hoping for and all of that kind of stuff. The amount of excitement and support that we received in this moment was truly overwhelming because we just came off of this where I thought, nobody is even going to care. By the time I tell people that this is mine, there's going to be nobody left. They're so mad. Um, but seeing you guys show your excitement and be there and be willing to be on this like new journey with us, um, just was one of the best moments of my life. And I am forever grateful for that. Then this is from the dreams to doing the work, right?
That's figuring out how to do taxes.
This is Michael trying to figure out how to register for taxes in every single state. This was the recharge
Oh
subscription thing that
gosh.
went all haywire where like
They charge everyone 8 times in a
people were
row.
being charged over and over again for their subscription. We couldn't figure out how to shut it off. We were up till 3 in the morning writing code to like turn off the program so you guys wouldn't like we got smacked in the face of with reality of what it was to own this company. And it was really humbling and it was really scary. But the beautiful thing and why it's not as like hard as these other things is that we were in control of the situation in the way that as soon as we saw there was a problem, I made a video and I was just like, "Hey you guys, this is what's going on. We're trying to fix it. We're so sorry." Like we were able to keep open communication the whole time because we were able to make those decisions as owners. And so that is and like the response that you guys had, your patience, your understanding with it was again, even though it was humiliating to be like, listen, this program that we had to sign up for, it's charging you and we can't stop it. Like, how horrifying is that? It's like the worst thing that could possibly happen to your customers happened, but you guys showed us so much patience and grace. And for that, it's just, again, just one of those things where I'm like, we're doing this together. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then here we are, because during this time when we purchased Let's Make Art, we had no idea if it was viable. We told you guys a plan. We're going to switch to more digital stuff. We're still trying to figure out warehousing. But as you can see, we're able to stock some things. We have figured some things out. We are able to offer workbooks, and we're doing a run of dandelion paint right now and paper. And we're able to do physical boxes once in a while and all of this kind of stuff where like we're building and you guys are showing up consistently enough that we know that our business so far can be viable, which is like the best feeling in the world of just being like, we we took the leap multiple times and now that we're here, we know that it's not like at any second it can die. We have a, a consistent enough support from you wonderful people that we can look to the future and say this is what we want to do in 2 years because I'm pretty sure we're still going to be here. Um, and that is just such a wonderful feeling. And again, it's because of the way that you guys are continuing to show up for us.
I love, if I can pause you,
Yes.
the tiny, teeny tiny implied little downturn you've already drawn into the end of this. You're like, "It's coming, here we go." I don't know what it is, but I just love it.
Okay, because I just can't. I mean, honestly, like, do I see a world in this? It can get better. Yeah. And do I see a world where it gets worse? Also, yes. Because if you look at this, like, if there is one thing for sure that I know is going to happen, there's going to be more lows and there's more highs. But being able to lay it out this way, I know that even in the lowest of lows, there's going to be a high after. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
If I can make it through this, then I can make it through that next chunk of highs and lows that I know is coming because that is what life is. Life is just a series of highs and lows in various stages. But what gives me confidence and not fear in moving forward is seeing all of the highs and the lows I've already experienced and knowing that I am still here. So, all I want to say is if you're in a low right now, don't stop. There are still highs ahead of you. If you're in a high right now, do not be scared of the low. It's inevitable. It's the only thing that we know is coming. And so, the last thing that I want to say is there is absolutely no way I would be feeling this and be all the way up here if I did not have all of these down here. This prepared me for this. And all of the lows and all of the highs that happened before were necessary for me to be in this moment where I am right now. And that is such a beautiful thing to recognize. And so, on this anniversary of announcing that we have purchased it, I just want to say a heartfelt thank you for being here with us and supporting us. I don't know what the future holds. I know it's going to be exciting and I know it's going to be stressful and sometimes hard, but that's okay because I know that I'll get through it no matter what. And so, thank you for being here. Michael, thank you for being the other half of this entire thing to make
Any
everything go.
anytime.
And again, thank you guys for supporting us on this journey and being here with us and being part of our story. You're the only reason why we're able to still be here. So thank you for that. I'll see you guys next time.